Hey, we're talking about the Book of Boba Fett, episode 7, In the Name of Honor. We are going to do our reviews of the episode and also the entire season. Then we're going to get into some spoiler talk starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
I'm John.
So the spoiler-free description of this episode is Boba Fett and Fennec Shand face an escalating conflict. This is written by Jon Favreau, as most of the episodes this season have been, except for episode 6, which was co-written by Dave Filoni and is directed by Robert Rodriguez. So, John, what did you think of the episode?
That was my reaction. I mean, I not
right.
All action is not great action, and unfortunately, it was. I mean, there's a ton of action in it, and it seemed like a grain finale for a lot of folks. But at the same time, it seems like it was more style over substance, and we finally got to see Boba Fett get into some action that people wanted, but at the same time, lots of questionable decisions of what they were doing, and it still didn't answer a lot of questions for me as to why he's even there, why we even have this series in the first place. And it just seemed like a nice setup for Mandalorian season, the next season. So I was just definitely medium on it. Definitely not super excited, and I didn't think it sucked.
Yeah,
but I'm right in the middle.
So Condra, what did you think?
I liked the episode, but I think, it was the same for me. Like, it felt more like an extension of the Mandalorian series and not Book of Boba Fett. So while I enjoyed it, like John said, I found myself wondering why is Boba Fett here? Why are we here? What is happening? So I felt a little underwhelmed, but overall, I was fine with the finale. I guess now that I'm saying it's like I wasn't overly excited, but it wrapped up some things. I think a few things. For us.
I was just trying to trying to fix the thing here. I just realized.
Yeah, I noticed you had us mixed up.
I was conjuring before.
I was hoping you guys talked a little bit longer so we could.
Like, what's my name
actually
again?
fix that. So you guys are in the right spot for the majority of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, the episode really wasn't. And we saw, a couple of characters return, right? The Rancor made a reappearance, just pretty much out of nowhere without his trainer. So that was a bit of a surprise. And you see, like, the oh gosh, what does he call them? Mods. They started to step up their game and their interaction. But yeah, I think it just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt like there were a lot of valleys.
Yeah.
Up and down.
For me, I wanted to nitpick.
We could definitely do that when we get into
like
the
choreography.
Stuff, yeah. So I agree with you guys. It was fine. It was fine. I don't understand the exercise. Is what I would say. I don't understand why this season exists, which is disappointing to say, because I think that they did the character of Boba Fett wrong, because I even though I didn't have a large attachment to Boba Fett, but they sort of but I do feel like they did Temuera Morrison and also Ming-Na wrong, because they didn't write good material or direct good material for them. I think there's some blame to pass around. Jon Favreau wrote all of these episodes, so he definitely has a hand in the blame here. I don't know that he is good at writing long story arcs like this. I think he's better at episodic stuff, which is what the Mandalorian is. Also, Robert Rodriguez. People are saying that he should never direct another episode or any more Star Wars. I think he also has some blame here because almost every episode that he directed was like this episode, which was mostly meh. And I think part of it is that he wasn't writing these episodes. I think maybe he's more successful when he's writing the things that he's directing. But every other director this season did a better job elevating Jon Favreau's scripts than Robert Rodriguez. Not only that, but Robert Rodriguez is one of the executive directors of this show. So maybe he was one of the driving forces of saying that he wanted to do something with this character. And I was actually looking it up. He's I think 56 now. When Empire Strikes Back came out and Boba Fett was first introduced, he was 12. So I don't know if he's had an idea in his mind for a very long time, and then this is what it is. But I think other people probably had ideas in their minds for just as long, and they probably could have done a much better job. But yeah, the episode was fine, but like Condra said, there are definitely peaks and valleys in the episode, just like many of these episodes that Rodriguez directed. It was slow in weird places. The action wasn't as thrilling as it could have been, and as I said, there's a blame to go around because the same writer wrote all the episodes, but when Bryce Dallas Howard directed one of his episodes, it was a great episode. I think it's all of these episodes, all of this stuff is like a collaborative effort. So every other director was able to elevate his scripts. I think that the scripts definitely had problems, but the director is also to blame on why this season was so lackluster. And my ultimate like review for this season would be, you don't really need to see this season unless they make a decision to make a second season of the Book of Boba Fett, and that second season is good. Then you might want to revisit this season. But if they don't make another season, there's no reason to watch this. If you watch The Mandalorian, just watch episodes 6 and 7. Six and 5 of this season. Otherwise, if you watch The Mandalorian and they start The Mandalorian the next season, you're going to be completely lost. Like, what? I thought he went with Luke. Why is he?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. All right.
I think too. What you're saying too is, as for the writers, I think that's just a problem. It just did not flow very well the whole season. So maybe that's the indictment of it. If you really look at it that way, maybe to me it just fell so flat in this final episode because of the lead up. Mm-hmm. Right, the build up to it was so disjointed. The pacing was off. You don't know where the hell they were going with the story. And out of nowhere, it became a Mandalorian story. And because of that, and of course, I think that's also a disservice to people following the Mandalorian series. Yeah. You go into next season, and like you just said, they're going to be like, wait, what the hell happened from the last episode of the Mandalorian season, and how did we get here? What are they going to do? Just like a flashback to episodes
of the
5, 6, and
Boba
7
Fett.
of Boba Fett?
It's
like, wait, so people follow me like, I don't care about Boba Fett, and all of a sudden they missed all this huge chunks of events in Boba Fett's story. Yeah. Well, Mandalorian story. Might as well call it Mandalorian season 2.5 or 3.5, whatever it was.
2.5. People have been saying that.
Well, maybe it's a ploy, right, to get people to watch Book of Boba
Fett. I guess so, but not everyone is going to watch the Book of Boba. And like, I know there's definitely a part of the audience who was not as interested in Boba Fett, so they didn't show up for this show, so they're going to be completely lost. They're going to, and they, honestly, they keep doing that, and it's not really good storytelling. Like I appreciate that they're bringing people from Clone Wars and Rebels. It rewards you, the people who watch those things. But I also understand that there are people who haven't watched those shows, so you can't make an episode assuming people know those episodes and rely on the emotional heft that was done in those episodes, and make a completely different show. That's not that like you. That's just bad writing and bad storytelling. Even as a person who watched those episodes, I haven't memorized those episodes. I would appreciate a little bit of through line of why Boba Fett is feeling the way that he does towards, say, towards the Tusken Raiders, or towards the Tusken Raiders, I guess we're exploring in this show, but say towards Cad Bane. I'm not, without giving anything away, because we haven't talked about, we're not in spoiler territory yet. It's established in this episode that they know each other. I know that they know each other from Clone Wars, but you can't have a couple lines in here about them knowing each other without I don't know, a flashback or something that they should have done in previous episodes. Two of the episodes this season were like 38 minutes, and they were two of the worst episodes of this season. They could have used that time to tell more story, to flesh. And they should have told Boba Fett's story, not just after he left the Sarlacc pit. They should have showed some of the story that they showed in the Clone Wars. Some of the story of him as a boy. Some of the story of him becoming a bounty hunter. It would have been more impactful understanding his journey. It was bad storytelling.
Agree.
I mean, is that bad directing in places? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, should we get into spoilers?
Yes.
Pull it apart.
All right. So
rip it apart.
I think, as I said, my review is, you don't need to see this, like I said, unless you really want to. If you've seen The Mandalorian, if you want to see The Mandalorian or catch The Mandalorian, see episode 5 and 6. I guess you guys are kind of in the same place before we get to spoiler reviews. Yeah. Okay. So that's what we feel. Spoilers ahead. We're going to tear this apart a little bit. Before we get into spoilers, I would say if you are enjoying the conversation, please like and subscribe. It helps grow our audience, and we really appreciate it. All right. So what do you guys want to talk about in this very weirdly paced episode?
Can I say, so it's been a couple of weeks since I joined you guys, and I think the last time I was on, Colin and I were maybe like disagreeing about their use of flashbacks, and I was like, oh, well, I like it. And I found myself wishing that, I think like similar to what you just said, using it, like they could have used it more, I think, to fill in those gaps. I don't know if that would have meant like having a longer season,
which is fine,
or having, like, or extending, like, making this season more about his time with the Tusken Raiders, and a little bit before that. But I felt like they really just cut the story, a lot of his backstory short, and they could have kept using that as a device. It might have made it feel a little less disjointed towards the end if they had kept using it to fill in those gaps and fill in who are these people, because I have not seen the Clone Wars, and I was like, oh, he knows this dude, but who is this who is this person, what's their connection type of deal. So filling in those spaces.
I have an essay on pretty much everything that you just said in my head. I can go off for a while on the Tusken. Now that I've digested the entire season, I was hoping for more with the Tusken Raiders, or hoping for more. Anyway, go ahead, John. I could.
I was going to say, if they were going to take the disjointed approach, go all in, right? Go all in with vignettes that pop around to the history of Boba Fett and why everyone thought he was this mysterious badass and everyone's favorite bounty hunter, right? Just showing short clips here and there, similar to the Mandalorian, right? Like show why maybe he was like pre-Empire Strikes Back or something like that, where when he was a bounty hunter, showing just little clips like that, and then leading up to, hey, everyone remember he was in a Sarlacc pit. Sure, they can show that how he got out. The Tusken Raider stuff, that's fine and dandy, but if you were going to wipe the hell out of them and just genocide them off the screen, I think that it's. I mean, I get what they were going for, but at the same time, I thought it just felt like what the hell? Like they were just used.
Yes, it was cheap.
They were just
cheap.
used rather than proving some sort of storytelling point, right?
Yeah.
So. And then of course, I think you all have seen they were just making fun of the fact that, he's constantly with his helmet off. Granted, he doesn't subscribe to the same beliefs that the Mandalorian does, Pedro Pascal's character, but still, he never had his helmet off in any of the movies at all whatsoever. Put him back on. I mean, look. Not that his mug is ugly or anything, but too much of the Temuera Morrison face when you're trying to show badass Boba Fett, especially when he got his armor and helmet back. Give us some of that. And I was pointing this out to my wife when we were watching the episode that the Mandalorian returned and took over the complete momentum of the series. Just the way he emotes with just the helmet on, right? And the way the camera focuses on him and things like that. I'm just like, I feel like I got more out of that than Temuera Morrison. And I know he's a great actor, but maybe it's the material he's just given.
Or the direction he was given.
Boba Fett. Yeah, Boba Fett goes to the bar. Boba Fett gets beat up. Boba Fett goes back to his base. I mean, it was like, come on. Is there not more to this? There's no emotional impact. No motivation as to why he's even doing this. Did you all understand why he became a crime lord, other than he just wants a new life because of Tusken Raiders? I mean, I didn't think that was enough to me.
All right, so the Tusken Raiders. It was cheap and it was stupid. They spent all this time trying to redeem the Tusken Raiders because I think the original thought was that the Tusken Raiders were just basically the savages, and it's problematic that they portray them as some like wild savages. So they tried to give them a whole culture and a whole backstory, but it was just to use them, just to fridge them. Like and it makes him look completely stupid in multiple ways. Like we saw that Fennec Shan said that it's unlikely that the Tusken Raiders were killed by bikers. I think Conjure, you and I were on the opposite side for Colin. We were saying that Boba Fett was justified in killing the Nikto bike riders, but apparently they had nothing to do with it. So I guess he did kill them for no reason whatsoever. I mean, they were beating people up, but they didn't deserve to be killed, apparently. So which makes him look like an idiot. Like Fennec Shan, just in a conversation with him, said that it was no way that they killed Tusken Raiders. They're formidable fighters. He didn't think to scratch the surface to investigate. No, he's incompetent. The entire
Well, you had that moment where she had to sort of calm him down, like have him back down. In this episode, right? So you sort of see some of that hot-headedness start to rise, and this time he doesn't make the same mistake, I guess, but it's still, they still walk into an ambush. But yeah, I think you just don't see really great development, or it doesn't make sense. You don't see why he's feeling what he's feeling. And I think if they had extended that time with the Tusken Raiders, because I feel like just as the audience was starting to, I as a viewer starting to, learn more about them, enjoy this time with them, it was then next, that was it, right? And I think so while I think you understand that they meant a lot to him, that relationship wasn't fully realized on screen. You have to sort of fill in the blanks for yourself, and you don't really feel it, right? Like I don't really feel his anger. Like I get it, but I don't feel it for him.
The season needed maybe 3 or 4 more episodes to let that breathe a little bit more, because the way that they killed them was cheap. They established their culture maybe at a half an episode, maybe an episode and maybe one episode if you cut it up into the 2 episodes we get their culture, and they wiped them out. And I was expecting them to show up again, because they specifically focused on two characters, the boy and the warrior, right? And I would think at least the warrior would have survived, and I was expecting her to show up in the last episode. It's like they tried to use them as the reason why he transformed, but they needed more episodes to show basically who he was before, and also more episodes with the Tuskens to show how they would have changed who he was before. Because as Jasmine was saying, we've only saw him in a helmet. He was what Cad Bane is a killer in Scum as well. But like he said, he is kind of like the pot calling the kettle black. But he is a killer. He was Scum, Boba Fett. So you have to show how he transitioned and why he transitioned, with more time with the Tuskens, and also more time showing who he was as a kid, his time with Cad Bane. This needed more episodes, and they needed to stop cutting, like having half an episode in the past and half of the episode in the present. They needed to they either needed to do it like John was saying. They have it all in the present, and they cut back like they did in the last episode. They had a flashback. Baby Yoda or Grogu had a flashback to like Clone Wars, and it was in present. It was just a flashback in the middle, like he was thinking about it. Right? They needed to do it like that, or they just needed to start in the past and then move all the way to the present. Because it was just it was poorly structured the way that they did it. It was poorly structured, and it didn't have enough time to breathe, so they needed a couple more episodes.
I think if you were going to introduce the Tuskens in this way, and you wanted the audience to feel with them, to take in their culture, and like the way Boba Fett was doing, I think it would have been more effective that they were still around. Mm-hmm. Maybe they had an
that's
attack.
one tribe, right? It's like
one tribe. Maybe they got attacked, and then the rest scattered, right? And then, but they also remember their time with Boba Fett. Hey, they would have been great to have shown up.
I was expecting them to show up. It would have made the episode a lot better.
Like all of a sudden, hey, they helped us. Most Espa, the people welcomes them. I mean, it's just, especially if you're trying to establish Boba Fett is now not real. I mean, a crime lord that doesn't commit crime. So he wants to be more respectable. So, hey, that would have been a great way to do it. Introducing a way for him to bring people together. Sure. If that's the angle they're going for, but genocide, it works, I guess.
It's basically
when he left.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say when he left to get reinforcements, he was like, we need help. I was like, oh, that's what I thought they might show up, right? Some more Tusken Raiders, and then he comes back with the Rancor that does the job, but also like proceeds to destroy, just lay waste to the place.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't need our city destroyed. Yeah. Meanwhile,
the mechs. There's like the mechs are going to destroy the city, and then he lets loose a Rancor who destroys the city. Yeah, I was expecting. So like, there's all this conversation about how our energy weapons aren't working and our kinetic weapons are moving too fast. So I was thinking, okay, Tusken Raiders, they have hand-to-hand weapons that move slower. Maybe.
Yes.
So it's like the Rancor showing up. I was expecting it to show up at some point, but like, I wanted to see the Tusken show up. Like it makes him look like a fool for the entire season. Like all the times that people are saying, well, you should have done this, or you should. If he had this in his back pocket, that like he knew that they were still alive. Like there was like a flashback to, he saved a couple of them and he was holding them, and that would have been beautiful writing that they just didn't do. Because at this point,
has he ever been a step ahead on anything?
Nothing. Like Fennec Shan.
Yeah.
Like, I was expecting Fennec. I mean, so again, and also Fennec is always questioning him because she always has better ideas. I was also expecting her to double cross him at the end, and they needed to have her not question him as much, or have her double cross him, because it made no sense whatsoever. Because it makes her.
I wasn't the only one thinking that.
Yeah, yeah.
Have her lead. I mean, she had the better idea.
Yeah, exactly. Like don't question him as much, or have her double cross him, or have her leave. Like because he's incompetent. Because if they're trying to set up that she's going to double cross him in a season 2, they're not going to get a season 2 because they didn't execute season 1 well enough. Like they could have peppered that in, that she was doubting him now and again, but like in every episode, she's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Doesn't sound like, and the audience is like, "Yeah, that doesn't." Yeah, all these guys are gonna keep out of this. They're gonna keep neutral. Are you sure about that, Bubba? No, of course they're not. Yeah. Of course they double crossed them.
But I mean, they're just like other choices. Like you're just thinking, okay. Again, the story choices that they made were, okay, he's this crime lord with Fennec Shan, with 2 Gamorrean guards. That's it. I mean, and then granted he had the spy kid show up and join the team, but other than that, how else was he going to run this mafia?
Yeah, like everyone
this Tatooine mafia.
We saw in episode 4, which was an okay episode, how he saved Fennec, and how many people Bib had there. Like he wasn't even like a 5th or a 6th staff of the palace. He had so many guards. He couldn't even get his ship by himself. So like he had 2 people in a robot, a sassy robot who didn't give him the skinny on the crime bosses until episode 3 for some reason. I feel like that's the first conversation that you have with the robot, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then there was like so many times where he also tried to collect money. How many people said no to him? Basically, no, we're not giving you the money. Oh boy.
Yeah, and
Fennec Shan was like gone for a good chunk of the episode, which is why I thought she was double crossing him. I was like, she just left them.
Oh, that's right.
And then she
I'll be right back.
Yeah, her stuff was great at the end when she was like an assassin and she killed. I was expecting her to double cross him, seriously. The only reason that the only hint that I got that she wasn't going to double cross him is because on the way to go and kill the Pike Syndicate, she went and helped the mod gang. That's not something. I mean, she wouldn't really care if she's going to double cross him. She wouldn't really care. So she stopped and she helped them, and then she went and most Espa is not necessarily like right next to Mos Eisley, so I understand it would have taken her some time to get there, but still, she was gone for the back half of the episode.
Okay, so if she was able to easily kill them, why didn't they just lead with that? I mean,
yeah.
Just send her.
Yeah, I feel like that should have been one of the plans. Like we know that the Pikes are in Mos Espa go to just cut off the head of the snake.
Yeah, and then you had that talker, right? They kept calling him Tailhead. I forget his real name, but I mean they had him as a prisoner all that time. They didn't think to question him and say, "Hello, where is this place?" Oh, it's the desert. What did they call it? The desert survey center or something. Yeah. and she, as soon as they told her, she left and she went off on an assassin mission.
Yeah, I don't even think he got a name. He was just like the majordomo for the mayor, played by David Pasquesi. But yeah, I don't understand. Like you're supposed to. If this show could have been so much better, like if you're setting up like a crime boss, I don't know, Ozark, Breaking Bad, I don't know, crime or like Godfather show,
Breaking Good,
yeah, exactly, or like Sopranos in space show. You got to show that he's competent, he's smart, like he's always ahead of all the other people. He seemed like a dope through the entire, like the smartest thing he said in this entire season was at the end of this episode when he's like, maybe we're not suited to this. No, you're not. You're not suited to this. You're not suited to this.
Yeah.
And then at the end, has he ever used the weapon that he earned with the Tusken Raiders before? Like, I totally forgot.
He used the gaffy stick against Black Krrsantan when he came and tried to assassinate him. So like the little beat between Cad Bane and him, the action there was okay. I like that a little as well, but it would have. But action is better when it's telling a story. It's telling an emotional story, and because they didn't set up that Cad Bane trained Boba as a boy.
Yep.
Cad Bane was trained by Boba's father, Jango Fett. They didn't set any of that up. So for most of the audience, it meant nothing. And as someone who knows that, it would be nice for them to re-emphasize that. Even though I knew that, so that it would be more emotional. The fact that the duel that they had. So,
that
it fell flat.
I thought they should have. If you're going to introduce Cad Bane in the last episode, which was a nice introduction, by the way, that little showdown. I shot the sheriff. But the very next this episode should have been that flashback. Episode with Cad Bane, like, who is this guy and what's his significance, and oh boy, he is the big bad, and it's going to be leading up to a showdown and battle. That episode was totally missing, and I agree with you. That setup was just horrible. You introduce him at the end of the previous episode, and then all of a sudden, this is how it ends.
They lean too much on people knowing certain things from like people like feverishly consuming all of their content, which is ridiculous. Like, people come in at different points, which is I think the point that I was making when I was talking to Colin last week about this. Like, he was saying that Marvel does the same thing, but Marvel only did that with like Endgame and Infinity War. You can jump on the Marvel train whenever because they make individual movies and even the shows. You could jump in one of the shows. I mean they might have some prior knowledge that's necessary, but I'm thinking back to the Hawkeye show. The Hawkeye show showed enough flashbacks from Avengers for you to understand what was happening in the Hawkeye show without you having to watch the Avengers. There's so much stuff that would make this show better if they had just reshot the animation in live action that they're calling upon because they're obviously referencing a bunch of stuff in this show that would have made it better for like I said, everyone, not just the people who hasn't seen that stuff. So I don't know. Do you want to talk about any individual scenes? Because like the Rancor mech fight was fine, but it was not as cool as it could have been. It was poorly directed, I think. My complaint with all that action was the similar complaint I had in the final season of Game of Thrones, where maybe I'm looking at it too tactically or something, where you see certain battles, you're just like, okay, did the Mandalorians just rush out? They flew in and they went dead center in between a crowd of the bad guys. They could everyone to shoot just the center, right? Yeah,
like if you have jetpacks, why are they flying around?
They have air power
on the perimeter to pick them off one by one.
Yes, from a military point of view, air power trumps people that are on the ground because he can circle them and he can pick them off. They could have circled them in a pattern and killed all of them from
exactly.
Yeah.
That's how they started. They started. It's like, oh yeah, that's badass, and I'm there like very excited. They're flying around, picking them off, shooting them from the air, and then they land dead center in front of them, like a movie set.
Huh? What?
It looked cool. I said it looked cool.
It looked cool.
I felt the same because they used the majordomo, right, and his like talkativeness to gain that advantage, right? Like he served some purpose.
Yes.
and then they just immediately ceded.
They squandered that advantage, though. They had the advantage because they definitely sent them out there to confuse them, and they got the drop on them, but they didn't take advantage of the fact that they had the air power to take more of them out. Like they got a certain amount of them out. They shot, but they were also just up they just flew up in front of them. They were just the difference between them being on the ground and it being up in the air is that they were just higher up, so they just had to pivot up to shoot them, as opposed to like being behind them and shooting them, because they could have done that too. They could just flew behind them.
Yeah, I mean, with the two of them flying around, you could not have split up, divide and conquer. I just didn't understand why they had to be together in one spot, right? One on the other side, one on this side. Make the bad guys be in the center, right? I don't know. Again, maybe I'm thinking too tactically about some of that
I think
stuff,
it was just poorly directed. Like I can imagine that entire scene was not scripted shot for shot by Jon Favreau, so it was just poorly executed by Robert Rodriguez. He didn't think of a way to make that more kinetically interesting or more visually interesting, and it was boring. It was wasted. It was wasted.
Yeah, it's poor planning, and then the Freetown people showed up again into the same exact spot, right, where everyone is shooting at, instead of, hey, we're joining the fight. Let us circle around the flanks.
Yeah.
Let us get them from the side. Let's get from the same thing with Krrsantan. He comes in right down the middle of the road, getting shot at, and then he finally had to be dragged away. And when they were fighting those mechs, right? Those mechs, it seemed like they forgot they had the jetpacks as well.
Yeah.
So if they're falling off, can you not turn it on midair to fly? I just didn't understand some of that either. It didn't make sense. They all had to fall on their backs, fall on their sides, and all that.
It's funny.
But again, it made no sense.
I think that
I thought there was a moment.
Go ahead.
The same with the moment where Krrsantan like sort of broke through their that shield. I was like, okay, maybe they're gonna figure out how to like take these things down, and then they just continue shooting at it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part didn't make sense either, right? If they all figured out that these guns don't work, why are they still shooting it?
Yeah.
They're still shooting right at it. None of the guns work. None of them.
Yeah, they're all bouncing off. It makes no sense. They're I don't know. So like, it's not like I watch a lot of Robert Rodriguez movies. But my sense is that he doesn't know how to conceive of how to shoot or plan shots that have are battles, like maybe hand-to-hand stuff. Like I said, the duel between them at the end was good, and I don't know, I'd have to go back and watch some of his movies if they were just like his main, because he usually has like a hero, right, in his movie. Maybe the hero is just fighting one person, and it's not like a battle where there has to be multiple people that you need to think about and how to place them in an interesting way, because that's a skill to do that, and he just wasn't up to the task for this shoot. For most of the stuff that he did this season, because I mean, like he did the third episode as well with that very, very, very slow race through the city where the mods are going after and that very terrible fight with Black Krrsantan when it came out. It was very slow and plodding fight. Like, if it was one-on-one, maybe it would have been better, but because he had to think about how the mods are going to jump into that fight, it just looked terrible. It wasn't interesting.
Oh, there was another one where, what was it? The two spy kids that were grabbed Krrsantan, holding him up, and then that one guy does a spin around, move and shoots. What was that?
I don't know.
For? It didn't look cool. It looked terrible. I just laughed out loud as soon as I saw that. I was like, that made no sense. That's like, there's no tactical advantage to any of that. It didn't even look.
I don't know. I don't know. What was he trying to spin out of the way so Black Krrsantan get his shot so he can get lower down?
It didn't even look right.
My only thought was, I guess it's harder to hit a moving target. You know, like maybe moments.
You know what
but it did feel unnecessary. It was like
it was very unnecessary.
Yeah, and
it reminded me of when in Galaxy Quest when Tim Allen does a roll.
Yeah.
And starts walking like this, and Sigourney Weaver's like, "Does that actually help? Does that do it?" That's exactly what it reminded me of. I was like, oh,
no, it is funny though. Like it's you either go for that stuff all the time or you don't do it. Because if you do it, then it looks out of place. Like if it was a Matrix movie, people are trying to look stylish all the time, right? They're making all kinds of unnecessary movements because they're trying to look stylish. But you can't just have that one guy do. It's like, we're about to get killed here. Why are you dancing in the streets?
But in his defense, like he made it to the end of the episode still looking very fly and well put together. So maybe
that's true.
You know,
maybe in his head he was in a Matrix movie. That's how he survived. He's like, I gotta dodge the bullets here. So like, that's how he's.
Maybe he thought he was in a cyberpunk movie. I don't know.
Yeah,
Was there anything that you guys liked about the episode?
I mean, the episode wasn't terrible. It was just meh. It could have been better. What the elements that they established, even though it would have been better if they just added 3 episodes to flesh out more things.
Yeah.
Even with what they established, if Tusken Raiders showed up, if they used the Rancor differently than they did and didn't have him destroy the entire town, I feel like they had to shoehorn in Grogu instead of just having him dealt with in the beginning of season 3 of The Mandalorian. So they had him doing some things, and he had him doing some things that would have been cooler if he was you could actually see, okay, he actually trained with Luke. If he balled up that thing with his force, if he crushed that mech with his force power, that would have been cool to see. Like they're just things, opportunities that they missed. And I don't know if they wanted they want to show his progression later on. Like in season 3, but I then don't use him then. Don't put him in the fight if you're not gonna show him do cool things. If you're not gonna show he was away with Luke for a while, or if you're not gonna show that he's actually progressed, because he put the Rancor to sleep, but he also apparently it takes it out of him. He had to pass out. He's still falling asleep when he uses too much of his force. So yeah.
They should have saved Grogu. So the last thing we should have seen of them, if they were going to keep him in this season in that way, with Luke giving that lone wolf and cub scene where he has to choose between the weapon and the object of his fancy or endearment, right? Cut it there, save it for season 3, Mandalorian, right? Pick up from there. And focus again. Yeah, I'm complaining again. What I did like were some of the fan service. I did like some of those scenes, but otherwise, it's just not put well together.
There's a lot of things that I liked in this episode. Like I said, that I think that could have just been done better. The Rancor, I knew it was going to show up at some point, but that shouldn't have been the first. The Tusken Raiders should have been the first people that he got, and then he should have gotten the Rancor later on. He shouldn't have. The Rancor being impervious to like a bunch of laser blasts, a bunch of like mech damage, but like running away from fire made no goddamn sense whatsoever.
I was so confused by that. I was like, wait, fire? Like,
did it establish that it doesn't like fire? Do you remember from like Empire Strikes Back, or not Empire Strikes Back? Return of the Jedi. Did it when Luke killed the Rancor? Was it fire? I thought he killed him with a gate. He killed him with a gate.
No, exactly. It was the door.
So like they have never established that Rancors are like afraid of fire. I don't understand. Yeah. And like the Rancor was moving so much in those fights. Like he was moving so much and doing so much intricate movement. None of that booked Boba Fett off. he moves back once because of the fire, and that pushes Boba Fett off. It made no sense. It made no sense. Like, so the things that I liked, you asked me things that I liked. There are lots of things that I liked, but they just executed them poorly. They executed a lot of these things poorly. So,
and then he left Boba Fett. Like, Boba Fett falls off and he just clambers away, and I was like, it's like, he's your master. Are you supposed to?
Yeah, I thought you were bonded to him just because you saw him. You see him in trouble, you're just gone. I guess they had to set up the duel, but they could have. They could have established that they should have done something with Cad Bane where he, not killed the Rancor, but like incapacitated him, so it'd make more sense. The Rancor wasn't there to help Boba Fett, but they had to do something with Grogu at the end. So like I said, they should have just cut Grogu out of this episode. Because that's the only reason that they had the Rancor rampage, for Grogu to stop him. They just cut Grogu out of this episode, have Cad Bane have some sort of like deadly weapon that the mechs didn't have that like injured the Rancor, so it took him out of the fight. So that's why Boba had to fight Cad Bane one-on-one, and he didn't have the Rancor to help him. I listen. I'm not. I can't do with Jon Favreau or Richard Robert Rodriguez do, but like I mean, lots of people you could come up with these things off the top of their head can make better scripts than what they came up with. So like these just tweaks here and there would have made the episode better. So I'm not saying that I'm a better storyteller than either one of these men, but I as an audience member, they could have done better. They could have told better stories.
Yeah. Oh, and Jennifer Beals was completely wasted. I mean,
they used her in a very similar way as they used the Tusken Raiders, basically to fridge them, to make motivation. They fridged Jennifer Beals. They fridged an entire tribe of people to give the character motivation. Yeah. Like. It's a cheap writing. It's a cheap and lazy writing trope that I thought people had stopped doing, but like I mean you see it in bad movies like the bad X-Men movie. You saw like Magneto's family killed. They fridged them to give him motivation in the Apocalypse movie. You see it in bad movies. I thought like good writers understood at this point that's bad writing. So
Just easy out,
It's like, oh, he killed his wife, so now he has to go back on a rampage. It's like, yeah. So I was wondering why one of the other complaints was like, there's only like 2 locations in this entire show. He's always going into the sanctuary. He goes into town and he's always going into the sanctuary because they were going to blow it up. The plan was always to blow it up. So like, okay.
I mean, you can blow it up, but still have her survive, right? Like, and maybe,
I wanted her to stick around.
Yeah.
She's got screen presence, and very recognizable. And I'm sure everybody wanted to see more out of that character, especially if you're going to introduce potentially a season 2. But I don't know if there's going to be a season 2 after this.
This is how aggressively like average this episode was. I didn't watch it to the end. Like I watched it to the end, but like when you're watching a Marvel show or a Marvel movie, it's so good you want to see more. You wait for the after credit thing. It didn't even occur to me that there was an after credit thing in this episode.
Yeah,
but apparently there was because I was looking around like hours later in the day. They were saying, "Oh, there's more." It's like, "Oh, I have to go back and watch it." Whatchamacallit because like at the end of WandaVision, I was like, "Oh, that was great." Even though it was like it wasn't 100% perfect, it was great. I want more. I'm waiting to see more. I want to see what they have on the after credit scene. Like I didn't even think that they had more. I was like, okay, I guess that's it. It was like a wow. Basically, at the end of the episode, it was like, okay, I guess it's done. I'm gonna go into my next task for the day. So I had to go back. I think I watched that like at 8 a.m. I had to go back at like 3 p.m. this afternoon. Just watch that that they apparently Cobb Vanth isn't dead. He's in a BAFTA tank. Yeah.
Which, I mean, because you do see the people of Freetown rush to his aid after he's shot, right? So I think there was some inkling.
Yeah, but the guy also said that they killed him. They shot him in cold blood in the street. So they basically misdirected, not misdirected. They lied. Basically, they had one of the characters lie and misrepresent the truth to have this. I mean, they could have written that better as well, but. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he could have just said, "Yeah, they shot him."
Yeah,
that's not really a lie.
It's
true.
Yeah, they could have written that differently. So there was some ambiguity because you didn't expect, him to show up at the end. So
they should have brought Jennifer Beals' character back like that, because I sort of saw her as being like integral to him learning who all the players are and who's in power, like that. She seemed to be like a source of information.
But the way that they showed the inside of the sanctuary, they atomized everyone in there. That it doesn't look like anything could have survived that.
No.
Like none of the furniture was even in there actually. Like so, yeah.
But, oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I don't know. The season Book of Boba Fett is wasted opportunities left and right. Basically, they could have told a better story, and they had all the money in the world because no one's. I mean, people have these Disney subscriptions and they're paying for this new either Star Wars or Marvel content. So. They could have done more episodes and they could have they just could have written them better. I don't know. Anything else? The Gamorrean guards are dead. I guess we saw them.
Yep. Poor guys.
That hurt. Yeah, I was like, really, just like that?
Yeah.
Like just off a cliff.
Yeah, and like I said. The
dirty.
I in the middle of the conversation, he's like, it was a smart move for them to double cross him. So why didn't you expect that they were going to double cross them? Why was your plan not? Why was your plan not? I don't understand.
But again, they recognize that, right? Like Fennec Shan asked him, like they realized that, and yet they didn't seem to have planned like any contingency for it.
No contingencies, none.
No army, no foot soldiers, no just nothing. Like,
they are not chess players.
No,
I don't understand. Like, I'm trying to like get into the mind of Favreau, but like I don't understand. And he's written things that are more sophisticated than this in the past. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's one of the. I don't remember if he was one of the writers on Iron Man. I know he's the director, but I don't know if he was one of the writers.
Iron Man was, from what I understand, most of it was improvised. They just had a skeleton draft and no lines for anybody, and that's how they filmed it. I remember Jeff Bridges complaining about that.
What I'm thinking is, so Dave Filoni worked with George Lucas, and George Lucas kept harping on the fact that these shows are for kids, but we talked about this earlier early last year. You can write things for kids in two different ways. You can write things for kids and insult their intelligence, or write things for kids and elevate and write elevated things that respects their intelligence. And in that bucket, you have things like Avatar, The Last Airbender, and also all the stuff that Dave Filoni did on Rebels and also Clone Wars. Those shows are for kids, but there's also very adult themes in those shows. So I don't know if he thought that a more complex oh, this is what Boba Fett was really thinking, or this is what he had in his back pocket, would have been too complicated for kids. I don't know. I don't know what his thinking was, but that would have made the storytelling better to show, that he was clever. And I don't think that would have gone over the head of a child. Because when you're writing these shows for kids, they're like 10 or 12-year-olds, not 5-year-olds. So...
yeah, or even not showing that he's clever, because I do think that there's probably a learning curve in going from being a bounty hunter used to working solo and on their own to now.
Well, show him learning then. Show him learning.
Right,
then.
like I can appreciate that. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like show him learning, and they don't even seem to really do that. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, they show them making plenty of mistakes. I can tell you that.
But not learning from
which is a part of learning.
But not learning from the mistakes.
Strategy.
Yeah, but not learning from the mistakes though. Like just making mistake after mistake after mistake, and like avoidable mistakes, because like Fennec Shan is there saying this is a mistake. Are you sure this is a mistake?
Yeah.
So at a certain at a certain point, like I said, it makes him look stupid. It also makes her look stupid for continuing to follow him. I understand that he saved her, but still, at a certain point, he's going to get you killed again.
Yeah. Maybe she has a plan.
But if they're setting up her double crossing him in the future, they should have had her question him less in this right now, because if she's questioning him every day, she's stupid not to double cross him sooner. and not so I don't know. I don't know. A lot of shows that have been good have had bad first seasons, and again, this season wasn't bad. It was just mediocre. So if they have a second season, and who knows if they get a second season? People have been complaining about this show. It's unlikely they're going to get a second season. Maybe they can right the ship, but I don't know. But as it stands right now, I can't recommend that people waste 7 hours of their time. It's not 7 hours exactly, because like I said, two of the episodes are like 38 minutes. I can't recommend anyone waste that much of their time when there's stuff that's on that's. I mean, there's so much content on. Like, we could have been doing reviews for Peacemaker, which I didn't think I was going to like, because it's basically about a racist superhero. But it's so well written. It's so much more worth your time. They're talking about a lot of social issues, which is a lot of stuff that we usually talk about on this channel. Like, watch Peacemaker instead of this. So,
well, I'll only watch episodes 5 and 6 and bits of this finale for the
episode 2 was okay
content.
as well. I mean, if you're going to watch the season, I mean, there are things to episode 2 was good, but it's not worth watching the entire season for. Episode 2 in this episode where they had their highlights, but I don't think I recommend watching the entire season for episode 2 in this episode, because like I said, there were so many missed opportunities just in this episode. Episode 2 was very well executed by that director, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she did excellent stuff with that episode. But the only other episodes that were good didn't have anything to do with Boba Fett. Like, the only episode that was like excellent in this season was directed by that director in episode 2, and then this episode is mediocre, huh?
Djarin.
Yeah, I think so. Like, and the last episode was directed by Dave Filoni.
I think she's getting the Ahsoka
that's great, because I want to see she directs action
mistaken.
very well. Like that train scene was awesome and very like it was. You could actually you got a sense of how fast the train was moving, and it was very cool. The fighting on top of the train and stuff. It was better. That train scene was better than the train scene and the Solo movie. Because they did something very similar in the Solo movie, but that in that episode. So I don't know. Watch half of the second episode and then episode 5 and 6, and you can skip everything else. Yeah. Any final thoughts before we wrap up about the season?
Yeah, on to the next season of Mandalorian, and this was a partial Mandalorian season, which were the highlights for me. And yes, we did get to see Boba Fett finally bring out his. Well, I don't know if it was full arsenal.
Yeah,
he had knee missiles or
he had. Yeah, they mentioned that before. They actually used them last season in Mandalorian. When he was he did use them.
That's
so
right.
Yeah, and that was one of the things from the people who I don't know, like Robert Rodriguez, who was introduced to him when he was 12. That was one of the things that was cool about the armor that they never actually showed in the movies. So yeah, they definitely want to show that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wasted opportunities all over the place.
Yeah, wasted. Yes, absolutely.
Like I said, Ming-Na Wen and Temuera Morrison deserve better. They deserve better direction. He could have been scowling less. I've seen it in other things. He's a great smile. He's like, he could have emoted more. And I assume the direction that he was given was not to do that. So I don't know. Well, if there's nothing else, that is what we think. But we are interested to hear what you guys think. So please comment down below to join the conversation. Like and subscribe for more videos like this. And we will see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.